The moment she pointed at my daughter, everything inside me froze. The cafe noise faded into a distant blur, like the world had suddenly stepped back to watch my life collapse in silence. My fingers tightened around the coffee cup, but I didn't feel its warmth anymore. All I could see was her hand, trembling slightly, aimed straight at my little girl, and then her voice, low but sharp enough to cut through my chest, repeated the words that would change everything.
This is SK Stories, where every story reminds us that kindness, empathy, and second chances can appear in the most unexpected moments. If you enjoy stories that inspire the heart, press like, share this video with someone special, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to SK Stories for more powerful stories.
Beside me, clutching her drawing with innocent pride, unaware that her world was about to tilt. I had raised my daughter, Zoya, alone for 6 years. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every tear she ever cried, I was there. Her mother had left us before Zoya could even form memories. No explanations, no goodbyes, just a void that I had tried my best to fill with love and stability. And now, sitting across from me, was a woman claiming a connection that made no sense, yet felt disturbingly real. Zoya looked up at the woman with wide, curious eyes. She didn't understand the tension, but she felt it. Children always do. Her small hand slipped into mine under the table, as if searching for reassurance. I squeezed it gently, though inside, I was anything but calm. The woman sitting across from us wasn't someone I recognized. Her name, as she later told me, was Sarah. Her presence was composed, almost controlled, but beneath it was something fragile, something desperate. She wasn't accusing me. She wasn't angry. She looked shaken, like she had just stumbled into a truth she had been unknowingly searching for. The seconds stretched into minutes, heavy with unspoken questions. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe she just thought Zoya resembled her younger self. People say things like that all the time, but this didn't feel casual. It felt personal. Too personal. As I studied her face again, the resemblance started to whisper its way into my thoughts. The shape of the eyes, the soft curve of the cheeks, even the way her eyebrows moved when she spoke. I had never questioned Zoya's features before. She was my daughter. That was enough. But now, doubt crept in like a shadow I couldn't escape. The conversation that followed was fragmented, uncertain, filled with pauses and hesitant words. Sarah explained that she had never been married, never had children at least, none that she knew of. But years ago, she had gone through a medical procedure, something she barely understood at the time. She had donated eggs during a period in her life when she was struggling financially, not fully grasping what it could mean in the future. Her voice cracked when she said she had always wondered if somewhere, somehow, a child existed who carried a part of her. But she had never expected to see that possibility sitting right in front of her, holding a crayon drawing and smiling shyly. My heart pounded harder with every word. Memories began to resurface, memories I had buried, details I had overlooked. Zoya's birth had been complicated. Her mother had insisted on keeping certain things private, brushing off my questions with vague answers. At the time, I trusted her. I had no reason not to. But now, those missing pieces started to feel significant. Zoya, sensing the heaviness, leaned her head against my arm. Her presence grounded me, reminded me of what truly mattered. She wasn't a mystery. She wasn't a question. She was my daughter, the little girl who laughed at silly jokes, who needed her bedtime story every night, who ran to me after school with stories of her day. And yet, the truth, whatever it was standing right in front of me. Days turned into weeks after that encounter, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Sarah and I stayed in contact, cautiously navigating a situation neither of us fully understood. We agreed to seek answers, not for ourselves, but for Zoya. She deserved clarity, even if it meant unraveling something painful. The process was slow, filled with paperwork, tests, and long periods of waiting. Each step felt like walking deeper into an unknown territory where every answer could change our lives forever. I watched Zoya closely during this time. She was still the same bright, curious, full of life, but I noticed how she sometimes looked at Sarah during their occasional meetings. There was a connection forming, subtle but undeniable. It scared me, not because I doubted my place in her life, but because I feared losing the simplicity of what we had. Our world had been small but complete. Now, it was expanding in ways I couldn't control. The day the results came was one of the longest days of my life. I sat in that sterile office, my hands clasped tightly, trying to prepare myself for whatever truth awaited. Sarah sat across from me, her expression tense, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. When the doctor finally spoke, the words felt distant at first, like they were meant for someone else. But then they settled in, heavy and undeniable. Sarah was biologically connected to Zoya, not as a mother in the traditional sense, but as the genetic source, the donor whose DNA had helped bring her into this world. The room fell silent. I didn't know what to feel, relief that the truth was clear, fear of what it meant, gratitude that Zoya existed, and an overwhelming surge of protectiveness that drowned everything else. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't reach out, didn't claim anything. She simply looked at Zoya, who was sitting beside me, unaware of the magnitude of the moment. There was no demand in her gaze, no expectation, just a quiet acknowledgement of a connection that neither of us had anticipated. Life didn't change overnight after that. There were no dramatic confrontations, no sudden shifts. Instead, it was a gradual adjustment, like learning to live in a new version of reality. Sarah didn't try to replace anyone. She didn't step into a role that wasn't hers. She respected boundaries, understanding that Zoya's world was built around me. But she became a presence, a gentle, careful presence. Over time, Zoya started to ask questions, simple ones at first. Why did she look like Sarah? Why did she feel happy when Sarah was around? I answered as honestly as I could, in ways she could understand. I told her that families aren't always simple, that sometimes they are made of unexpected connections and choices. And through it all, one thing never changed. Zoya always came back to me. Every laugh, every hug, every whispered goodnight, it was always me she turned to. And in those moments I realized something powerful. Biology may explain where we come from, but it doesn't define where we belong. Months later, we found ourselves back in that same cafe. This time, the atmosphere felt different, lighter, calmer. Zoya sat between us, happily coloring another drawing, her laughter filling the space that had once been heavy with uncertainty. Sarah smiled softly, watching her, but there was peace in her expression now. And for the first time, I didn't feel threatened. I felt grateful. Grateful that Zoya had more love in her life. Grateful that the truth, no matter how complicated, had led us to understanding instead of conflict. Grateful that we had chosen kindness over fear. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like and share it with someone who believes in the power of love beyond blood. And before you go, tell me in the comments, do you believe family is defined by DNA or by the people who stay? Because as I watched my daughter laugh that day, I realized the answer had been with me all along. Family is the one who never lets go.